Welcome to this North Metro TV local decision candidate debate for Blaine City Council Ward 3. Glad to be joined today by the candidates Andy Jarvis and Mesa Olson. Thank you both for being here. Today we're going to start with opening statements. After that, we'll go into a question and answer segment. Then after my questions, the candidates will have an opportunity to ask each other a question. Then we'll finish up with closing statements tonight. Andy, you're in the first chair, so you get the first shot at it. So your opening statement, sir.
Great. Thank you, Ben, for having us today. My name is Andy Jarvis. I live in Blaine with my wife, Crystal, and my son, Vincent, and our two dogs, Penny and Gracie. I work at the Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs, where I supervise the State Benefits Division, where we administer state-funded programs to veterans. I love my job, waking up every day and getting to help veterans that have served our country. It's just a great feeling. I also am in the Army Reserves. I've been in for 14 years, and I serve as the Minnesota Emergency Preparedness Liaison Officer, NCO. So I'm part of a four-man team that essentially works on preparedness to assist with any kind of federal DoD military support that would be needed in Minnesota in response to a catastrophic event. I have a bachelor's degree of sociology, law, and criminology from the University of Minnesota and a master's degree in public administration from Hamline University. And I'm asking for voter support in the election for Blaine City Council Ward 3.
Thank you for your opening statement. Mesa, your opportunity now for your opening statement.
Thanks, Ben, for having us here today. And I just want to thank the residents for allowing us the opportunity to come before them and talk a little bit about ourselves. Hopefully this is an opportunity where they can get to know me a little bit better and Andy and make an educated decision when it comes up to the election in November. I live in Blaine. I've been a resident for 13 years and live with my husband and my 3 kids. And I've served on the Blaine City Planning Commission and also serve on the Board of Equalization with the City of Blaine. So that kind of prompted my getting to know the depths of City of Blaine and what the resident needs are, kind of working within the inner circles to see what we can do. Blaine has been one of the fastest growing cities for the last 5 years, and it's a great thing, and at the same time we need to continue to make sure that we make good educated decisions on how we continue to grow. So that's what I'm hoping to do for our residents within the City of Blaine Ward 3.
Thank you both for your opening statements. We're going to move in now to our question and answer segment. Mesa, you'll be first on the first question today, talking about the city budget. How will you prioritize when it comes to the city budget? If you had to cut, where would you look first? If you had additional dollars that needed to be spent, where would you want to direct those funds? How would you prioritize?
Well, that's a great question. Budgets is important because it affects the economic positioning for our residents, and what's most important, I think, within our budget is we've done a really good job, the people with the City of Blaine that have served us thus far, in keeping our budgets nice. I've lived here for a long time and have had the benefit of comparing it within my job to other cities, and we've seen really great growth and not huge expenses passed on to us. So that's my priority, is to continue that. When it comes to budget cutting, I think the first place you have to cut is just the amenities and the extras. Number one thing that has to get our time and attention is keeping Blaine safe. Our roads, keeping them safe, infrastructure, and our service.
Thank you very much for your answer. Andy, same question to you now. How do you prioritize when it comes to the city budget? If you had to cut, where would you look first? If there are extra dollars to spend, where would you want to funnel that money to? How would you prioritize?
So first, I think it's important to put it in context of our surrounding communities. I really look at Blaine as the beacon of the north. When you look to our east and west, you have Woodbury and Maple Grove that are essentially the beacons to the east and the west. The tax levy in Woodbury and Maple Grove are anywhere from $8 to $11 million more than Blaine's tax levy. And the per capita debt per citizen in Blaine is $557, Woodbury's $808, and in Maple Grove it's $1,978, almost 4 times the per capita debt per resident in Blaine, or in Maple Grove, than it is in Blaine. So I think it's important to prioritize. One of my top priorities is public safety. Police and fire. We have to have communities that are safe, and stable. We need not worry about crime in our city, about you forgetting to leave, shut your garage door and you get burglarized, and people are as abrasive as to come into your home and dig into your purse while you're sleeping. And we need not worry about our children walking a block or two to a city park and getting hit by a speeding vehicle. So public safety is first and foremost. And second, I look at public services, so we're looking at public works and parks and recreation. I think Blaine has an amazing parks and recreation department, and we have many parks in our city that people love. People move to this city because of those issues. So I think investing in that, investing in our public works, so we have our streets are plowed in a timely manner. And if we have to make cuts, I'd rather first look internally on how can we become efficient before we actually make cuts.
Thank you for your answer. After every question, I'll offer rebuttal time or response time. It's your choice if you feel like you need it. Would anyone like the extra 15 seconds here?
I'm good.
No.
Okay. Then we'll move on to talking about development. Andy, you'll be first on this question. Knowing that you cannot always pick and choose the development that comes your way, Blaine residents have been asking for an upscale grocery option for what seems like quite a while now. What can you do as a member of the City Council to make that a reality? Andy?
So I think that's an important point. We need smart and controlled growth. We need to be cognizant of what, where, and how we're developing things. And you're right, we do have very little control on what businesses we bring into the city. If it's zoned for a sit-down restaurant, you can't say, I don't want a Thai food restaurant, I want a pasta restaurant. It's zoned that way. And if a Thai food restaurant wants to move in, they can move in. So I think it's really important for us to be proactive and seek out those businesses that we want. Create a marketing campaign. One of the biggest things that I've always said is an issue with Blaine is that people don't know about it. We know about it. We live here. We know it's a great city. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here running for city council. So let's put some packages together. Let's tell these businesses what Blaine has to offer. What kind of workforce do we have? Where are we located? Right off of interstates and highways for easy access for employees to come in and work, for other people in outsider communities to come in and shop for a grocery store. So I'm fully in support of another grocery store, an upscale one. I think it's something that the other beacons to the east and west have. Woodbury has one, Maple Grove has one, and if Blaine wants to be the beacon in the north and continue to be so, I think we should add one too. So I think we need to engage with those businesses and just tell them about Blaine and convince them to develop here and not offer them incentives to do so because our community is incentive enough.
Thank you for your answer. Now, Mesa, same question to you. Knowing that you cannot always pick and choose the development that comes your way, Blaine residents have been asking for an upscale grocery option for some time. What can you do as a member of the City Council to make that a reality?
I think as a member of the City Council, it takes hard work. It takes time. One of the reasons why I'm sitting here is not because I'm superior to any of the residents in our community, but because I'm willing to put forth the time and the effort. They're not just going to necessarily come knocking on our door. We do need to tell the Blaine story. We need to approach these businesses, and I get asked that question so many times. Anybody that knows I'm involved with Blaine, they say, when are we going to get a such and such a grocery store? I think it's important that we have it, but it's going to take hard work. They may not just come knocking on our door, so we need to tell that Blaine story. What do we have to offer to that business? And we need to be a city that is approachable and appealing to other businesses. It's gonna grow our economic base here within our city.
Thank you. Rebuttal time, anyone?
No.
Okay. Let's talk specifically about your ward, about Ward 3. Mesa, you'll be first on this question. If you are elected to City Council, what is something you want to accomplish specifically for your ward, for Ward 3?
That's a really good question. In out talking to residents, this has given me the opportunity to do, which has been phenomenal, just to get to know people. It's been a big thing on people's mind with the community center, and proximity to that is a great thing, and will be definitely, I think, a sales point to having it. So my residents have been saying that that's what they'd like to see. They'd like to see it be kind of up by us, and I'd like to fight hard for that. Within specifically my ward as well is the infrastructure and the roads. We are the growing side of Blaine for the most part because we've had the room to expand. And with that has come more traffic and definitely some issues there. And so it's a big concern that I've heard on the residents' minds. And it's something I would like to really focus on and address for the residents is really just our infrastructure, our roads, the safety, the speeds, things like that.
Thank you for your answer. Andy, same question now to you. If you are elected to the City Council, what is a goal or something you would like to accomplish specifically for your ward, Ward 3?
Yeah, really I put it into two separate buckets. One is creating livable communities, and the second one is traffic control and /safety. First, livable communities, it ranges from everything from being able to stay in Blaine to partake in your entertainment, your dining, all those activities. You know, a vast majority of Ward 3, it's newer communities and it's commuter communities. These individuals are driving 24 minutes on average to go to work one way. So I know me, I drive to St. Paul for the state of Minnesota. You know, my drive can be anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half on a really bad traffic or snowy day. The last thing I want to do when I come home is go to Coon Rapids to see a movie or to partake in entertainment or dining or shopping. So I really think that we need to target businesses that we want to see in Blaine, whether it's the upscale grocery stores, a movie theater, things like that. A great example is a hotel. We actually have a hotel that's coming to Blaine. It's amazing, but we need more of them. I mean, the National Sports Center receives 4 million visitors annually every year, and I work with people that come up here for the soccer tournaments, and they always say, hey, can I stay at your house? You know, they want to stay here. But the truth of the matter is, if there's not enough housing for those people to stay here, they're going to leave and go to other communities or go home. And traffic safety, we got to keep our streets safe, our neighborhoods safe, so our kids, we don't have to worry about them as they go to the parks, and let's reduce speeds.
Thank you. Rebuttal time, anyone? Nope. Well, then let's talk about traffic, because you both brought that up in your last question. The death of Danny Aguilar in May rekindled this debate about traffic on the city's streets in Blaine, on neighborhood streets specifically. Andy, you'll be first on this question. What can be done to make streets in Blaine safe for residents and keep them accessible and efficient for drivers?
It's a great question, and it's not an easy one to answer, and I don't think either of us really have the answer here today, because it's going to be a collaborative approach. You know, I think one of the best steps is the implementation creation of the Citizen Advisory Council, you know, for the traffic issues. But we really need to look at how much are we willing to invest in this area. You know, City of Blaine is hiring 2 new police officers to focus on traffic enforcement. That's a great start. But we need to look at roundabouts. We recently installed a roundabout east of Lexington by Sunset Avenue because there was issues there. But we need to look at what other cities have done that have similar problems and learn from them instead of engaging in 6-figure studies of our own. So let's learn from other people's journeys and mistakes and issues that they face other communities. So you know, it's really about listening to the citizens. You know, we can't sit up here and say where every single traffic issue is. Mesa knows where her traffic issues are in her community really well. I know where my traffic issues are in my community. But we need the citizens to be able to speak up, and you need someone that's going to listen to them. And I think the advisory council is a great start, but you also need a city council member and staff members in the city that will listen to people. And let's start logging where these issues are. You know, start logging them in a database so we know where the hottest traffic issues are and how we're going to solve them. Let's be creative. Let's be collaborative. Let's use city, county, and state resources.
Thank you. Mesa, same question to you. What can be done to make streets in Blaine safe for residents and keep them accessible and efficient for drivers?
I think it starts with putting in the streets in the get-go. So when we're putting in these new developments, let's think a little bit past step 1 and into the future. What size of a development is this, and what are our roads going to need? What kind of a buyer or a community are we serving here as far as who's going to be living here and what are the needs of that? If anyone's driven recently on Cloud east of 65, we've got some new radar, you know, targeting speed limit controls, which I drive every day, and I love that. I love it for my husband. You know, I mean, it's just been great because it's kind of like the, you know, the big daddy looking over your shoulder type thing, and I think it's helping bring awareness. Oh my goodness, let's focus here. I'm driving in a small residential road and I should be mindful of the speeds. As a homeowner myself, when we've talked, you know, even throughout the communities as I've gone and met different residents, people are willing to come alongside of initiatives like that and put the dollars forward to bring their communities up to safe levels. I would like to see more of that in place. I think it's a great solution. It doesn't tax our already taxed service industries who are trying to keep the roads safe, but they can't be everywhere. So let's implement some of these things that don't bog down the roads, but yet can help, you know, keep them safe.
Thank you. Rebuttal time, anyone?
Yeah, I would just like to, you know, I agree completely with what you said. And a great example of that is the 125th expansion. You know, I live off of that street. It's going from a single lane to a 2-lane, but right at Legacy Creek Parkway, it's filtering down to a single lane. It's already hard enough for me to get out on that street. Now when you got 2 lanes of traffic merging into one there, it's going to force that traffic into our communities, which is going to increase a risk that people aren't really looking at. And I know there's budget issues, but I think we can work with that.
Did you have anything else to add, Mesa? Okay. Let's move on to our next question. Talking about the community center, I already heard it brought up once, I think. Mesa, you'll be first on this. Is now the right time for a community center in the city of Blaine? And do you support the referendum that will be on the ballot this fall?
That's a good question. When is the right time? That's always the question. And it's been a great conversation piece with the residents while I've been out and about, getting opinions. The study was well done, and they've been working hard on it. Started back in 2014. I think it's time. I think we've had great growth and we have some good stability within Blaine, and our residents are open to it and they're looking forward to it. That does not mean everybody, but I do support the referendum, and I think it's important to making Blaine, again, part of our Blaine story. It's going to be another chapter in our story, and I think it's going to be a good one for all the residents.
Thank you for your answer. Andy, same question to you. Is now the right time for a community center in the city of Blaine, and do you support the referendum? They'll be on the ballot this fall.
Yeah, so like Mesa, I think it's a tough question. I do disagree, though, about the study. I'm disappointed in the study. I mean, we paid over 6 figures for the study to be completed, and we're walking into, with a referendum question, it's essentially telling people, hey, in Ward 3, it's, you know, going to be $10 to $20 a month on your, or $10 a month on your property taxes increase to build this center. But what about the operating costs? You know, the study's been going on for a while, the committee's been together, but they really haven't honed in a tentative agreement with anyone like YMCA, so we don't know anything about the operating costs. And my fear is that, you know, we don't know what that increase is going to be on the taxpayers, and we don't know what memberships are going to be. So if I'm already paying $10 a month in property taxes for that, maybe $5 a month to help support the operating costs, and $80 a month for a membership to go to this community center, do I really want it? Because $10 a month seems really attractive to me, but I do support it because, as you guys reported, we're the only city above 40,000 that doesn't have a community center. So I do think it's an iconic thing. I just think we need to know more and we need to invest in more. And an example of a failure of a development in Blaine, in my eyes, is the Lexington Athletic Complex. You know, we spent $7.4 million acquiring and developing that, and every day I drive by it, and I haven't once seen that parking lot full and all the fields full. So I don't want the community center to be another Lexington Athletic Complex where it's not full and it's not being utilized, and now we're stuck with trying to get people in.
Thank you. Rebuttal time?
I would like to rebuttal that just real quick. My nephews participate a lot at the Lexington complex. It's a great complex, and they did a good job. I think it's going to take time to get up and running and use and things like that. But also the study they worked hard, and you've got to start getting pieces to the puzzle to know when's the time. So there's still more information to gather, but they're doing it, and this is part of it. So it's just first step. They don't have all the pieces yet, but they're walking down that road.
Right.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a beautiful complex, and I'm glad we have it, but I'm not a Kevin Costner, build it and they will come, you know, and that's essentially what we've been stuck with. And so I think, you know, now we're in a position where we need to market that more. We need to bring in organizations across the state and region-wide to fill it, because it is not being utilized completely, and so it is going to waste.
Thank you both. Excuse me. Next question about public safety. Andy, you'll be first on this question. Do you support body cameras for all Blaine police officers that would be active at all times?
That's a tough question. I guess I do support it. I think this day and age, it's more of a liability for us to not have it. I really think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done societal-wide against the divide between, police and the community. And I think all too often community, people are looking to catch police doing something wrong and really pinpoint every mistake, and they don't highlight their successes. But I'm a huge supporter of the public safety, and I think we have to step behind that. And it just goes, one of the supporting elements there is we have 200,000 visitors for the 3M golf tournament, 4 million annual visitors to National Sports Center. We really need to get behind our public safety departments, because we're putting ourselves at risk. If you look at the San Bernardino attacks in California last December 2015, the response efforts cost $18 million. That's the response efforts, that's staff overtime and everything, just to respond to that one incident. And there was $1 million that was forced onto San Bernardino City that was unfunded. So they have to find a way to fund that. So just think if Blaine, if we don't put more effort into our public safety planning and preparing and training and giving them the resources they need, we very well could find ourselves in one of these instances where we have $1 million as a result of a response in an incident in one of our venues.
Thank you. Mesa, same question to you about body cameras. Do you support body cameras for all Blaine police officers that would be active all the time?
I am not the Blaine police chief. I'm really proud of them. They've done a really good job. As a person, if I was a police officer, I would want a camera. I think it's protection for them, and our job is to help our Blaine police do their job. We need to support them, and I think that that's protection for them. Ultimately, it's a decision that comes down to cost. Where is that cost going to come from? What does it look like? It's, again, back to budgeting. So it needs to be evaluated, and that decision, I think, has to be largely made within the police chief and his staff. But personally, I think it's important to their safety, and I wish that each of our police officers could have that. When we walk into the school, my daughter's school at middle school, there's a Blaine police on staff that serves a liaison officer to the school. She is there building a bridge between the kids. She's there as a representative, and it's awesome what she does. And I would like to see more of that at that younger age even, just building that bridge to understand they're here to serve and protect us. They're not the bad guys. They're here to save us and protect us from the bad guys. And I love what they do there. So I'd like to see more of that as well.
Thank you for your answer. Rebuttal time, anyone?
I'd just like to add, I think that was a great response, and I think you would also support this, is that in addition, if we're going to pay for body cameras on police officers, I think we also need to invest more in training. And that's not to say that our police are undertrained, but it's to prepare them and provide them with the best support possible so that they don't find themselves in an instance where...
Did you want to add anything?
I agree, 100%.
Okay. Let's talk about future growth in the city. Let's see, Mesa, you'll be first on this question. Blaine is projected to grow to a city of more than 80,000 people, and it's well on its way there. What are important steps for the city council to take in managing that growth?
Thanks for the question, Ben. I was just thinking about that today as I drove up Lexington and kind of in our open space, if you will, of where we've already seen the expansion happening. And I've mentioned before, that within my job, I work with builders and homeowners and developments and so forth, and I think there's a good way and then a better way to bring that growth. I think that if we look at, I like to learn by example. Rather than having to walk through an epic failure and learning out of that, I think it's important to look around to the people who have gone before and see how they've done it, what was successful, what wasn't so successful. With the growth, I think it just needs to be managed. We do need to continue to grow. It's important for our economic base with the city and the demand, and it's good for everybody. And at the same time, we need to not go so fast that we don't think 3 steps ahead, because you can get, if you grow too fast, you can get yourself into trouble as well. So I'm for it. I love to see the growth, and I'm glad we have been and been seeing it for year over year. But at the same time, I think we need to also make sure we're slowing down enough to plan ahead, think ahead, and be wise about it.
Thank you. Andy, same question to you now. Blaine is projected to grow to a city of more than 80,000 people. What are important steps for the City Council to take to manage that growth?
Yeah, just kind of reiterating what Mesa said, I also agree that we really need smart, controlled growth. So that's forecasting, the decisions we're making, what are the ramifications, the second and third ripple order effects, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years down the road. And when we look at that, we also need to look at our areas that are already developed. An example is Northtown Mall. I spoke with a lady earlier this week, and she had a restaurant in Northtown Mall, and she said they ended up having to close because it's really tough to keep a business there, and she was afraid it was going to become the next Brookdale Mall. And so we really need to prevent that. And it's, Northtown Mall is privately owned. It's not our job to throw money at that specific establishment, but it's 1.1 million square feet and the 5th largest mall in the metro area. And why did Brookdale Mall fail? It failed because of the surrounding communities. Property values were declining. Residents were leaving, and they didn't have the expendable money to shop there. So I think we really need to focus in on the areas that are currently developed, make sure that property values either stay consistent or rise. We need to reduce business vacancy in the surrounding area. I believe Kmart left, and that building's been vacant for quite some time. And we also need to look at the traffic flow in that area. That goes back to roads. I know when I go to Northtown Mall, it's confusing. You make a wrong turn, next thing you know, you're circling around, you're in the Toys or Babies R Us and turning around. And we really need to fix that. So I'd focus on that too.
Thank you. Rebuttal time, anyone?
Yeah, I think one thing that we've done great within the city of Blaine is the Cub project that's going on right now off of University, and that's just a prime example of how we've taken the buildings and the property that we have in place, and we're just bettering it, and it's going to be better for the community as a whole.
Anything else to add, Andy?
No, I agree. I think that development has turned out really well. Again, we just need to focus in on the areas that are developed and the surrounding areas, because it's going to be a lot cheaper to fix the small problems now than to deal with a catastrophic problem like Northtown Mall shutting down and having to redevelop that project.
Thank you both. Time for the last question from me. This is a question that we're asking to every single person that comes in this year. It's the only question that every person is getting, but it deals with unity. So let's see, Andy, you'll be first to answer this question. Across America, we are seeing deep divisions, whether it be between races, ages, religions, socioeconomic classes, and political parties. How will you work to foster a spirit of unity, both at City Hall and right in your own neighborhood?
That's a great question, and it's also a hard one to answer because you don't know what the right answer is because people are unpredictable. But I think Blaine is a great community that's really has become extremely diverse over the last couple decades. So I think we work on our parks and recreation programs. We already put on a lot of different community events, music off Ridgeway Park, and there's festivals at Aquatour Park, things like that. Getting the word out about that, trying to be inclusive, and trying to maybe get populations or cultures that typically haven't wanted to venture out or reach out, and really just try to include everyone and target that. I think our national night out is amazing across Blaine, so ensuring that keeps going and communities keep hosting those. But yeah, it's just really getting the message out that we're here for everybody. We're a diverse community, and that's what makes us great, and we're all Blaine residents.
Thank you for your answer. Mesa, same question to you. How will you work to foster a spirit of unity, both at City Hall and right in your own neighborhood?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. We had the best Night to Unite this year that Blaine has had. It was great, and I'd like to see that continue. I think that's bringing neighbors together. That's where it starts. It starts on your street with your neighbors, knowing your neighbors. And then as far as what we can do, as city council and just the leaders of the city, is to get involved. Like I said, having the liaison officers that are working and having them out in the community, just building that we all have something in common. As diverse as we all have families, or we have, friends, loved ones we care about. We're all living in a community together. So I think a great thing to bring people together is just getting people out and involved in things together, doing things together, and finding those common grounds that we can come together and agree on, even though sometimes we won't always disagree on everything.
Thank you. Anyone need rebuttal time on that?
No.
We'll stick with the spirit of unity. All right. Now it's the opportunity for you to ask each other one question. Andy, you have the first opportunity here. You can ask Mesa a question if you choose.
First, I just want to thank you for running for City Council, and I think however this race turns out, we'll both, either one of us will do an amazing job. We really care for the city. And although it's tough because we both are really passionate about a lot of issues, what if you could only pick one thing in one short sentence, what would be your main priority or focus for Blaine?
That is really hard, Andy, to pick one thing. I would have to say just where my heartbeat is at, and because we are such a growing community, a big thing that's important to me is how we do our growth and make sure that we do it smart, economic, safe. So probably the growth, which entails so much. It entails safety and traffic and budget and all that stuff. But that's a big deal to me because I think that we're at this tipping point, and the city of Blaine has done really well, and we're at a place where we can, catapult and go too fast, or we could stall out and wreck that momentum. So that's a big thing for me. Yeah.
Great. You have time to respond, 15 seconds if you choose.
I completely agree. That's my top priority too, is smart and controlled growth, because I do believe as well we're at that tipping point, or in a couple of years we really will have to make really tough decisions to keep the city great.
Thank you for that exchange. Now, Mesa, you have an opportunity if you choose to ask Andy a question.
Well, I wanted to start off by saying thank you for your service. You've already served our country, which is awesome, and I appreciate it greatly. I guess my question to you would be, what do you think is the biggest hurdle that we're looking at? What's the biggest thing we're going to have to overcome in the next 2 years?
Yeah, and I hate to be repetitive, but it really is, it goes back to that smart and controlled growth. I think when you look at our tax levy, what the city has right now, and you compare it to the other beacons, the Maple Groves, the Woodburys, it's going to be important for us to slow that growth and tame temptations of people wanting things but not wanting to pay for it. Taxes are already high, but there's multiple things that influence your property taxes. There's stuff at the county level, and there's stuff at the local level. And so I think really making sure that we inform our residents of like the community center. This is what it's actually going to cost you before you even purchase your membership. Or if you want more parks or more trails, this is what it's going to cost you on your property taxes. So I think it's really just being transparent and controlling our growth and making the tough decisions on, do we increase our bonds and our indebtedness to grow and establish some of these other items that make Maple Grove and Woodbury attractive to other people, so we can maintain to be the beacon of the North.
Thank you. You have a chance to respond if you choose.
No, that was great.
Okay. Well, now we're going to move into our closing statements. You each have a minute for your closing statement. Andy, you'll be up first with your closing statement.
I just wanted to say that, Blaine is a great city, and I don't think you're going to find any candidate this election cycle that is going to disagree. And I think Mesa and I are right on point with each other when we say that our goal is to control our growth and to be smart about it, because Blaine is going to face tough decisions in the coming years. People may not want to admit it and they may not want to see it, but if we want to continue to grow, have the amenities, have the leisure activities, have a safe community, it's going to cost money. So the decisions are going to have to be made on, do we look for supplemental outside support, whether it's state funds or county funds, which have ties to it. You see that on 109th. It was a state-funded project, and now if we want to go back and change the traffic flow, we may have to pay back some of that money. So we have tough decisions we have to make. How are we going to increase the tax levy? Are we going to try to look internally and find cost savings that we can then use the cost savings for some of the projects? But we have to make those tough decisions in order to continue to stay great.
Thank you. Mesa, your opportunity for your closing statement now.
Well, thank you again, Ben, for just this time that we can the residents will get to know us a little bit, hopefully, and see where our heart is at. I believe that some of the biggest things facing Blaine are growth, and we have to do that smart. We have to do it wisely with the budget, and where's the money going? Again, what are we putting it at? Parks, recreation, things like that. How are we developing, and what do those developments look like? I also think that it's so important to bring businesses into Blaine. We have to be a place where we're attracting businesses because of what we have in place. We have businesses already here. I own a business, and we need to be making Blaine a place that's inviting to bring others in. It's important for our economic stability and just supporting the safety services that we have in place already. It's so vital to making it a community where people want to live and play and be. And so I think that hopefully I'll have the opportunity to be a voice for our residents in moving forward the next couple of years.
Thank you both. Thank you both for coming in today and sharing your views and opinions with us. I appreciate it. And I want to remind you that you can always head to northmetrotv.com for our complete local decision coverage. It's all there for you. We'll have all the races that we're covering this fall, and we'll watch those races right up to Election Day. And then remember, on Election Night, tune in starting at 8 p.m. for live local election coverage. North Metro TV is the only place you'll get in-depth analysis of your local elections, and we'll have the results for you as soon as they come in. For the candidates, Andy Jarvis and Mesa Olson, for Blaine City Council Ward 3, I've been your moderator, Ben Hale. Thank you for watching.